What's going on, YouTube? Don here again, Eastern CT Vaper, coming at you today with a very simple yet satisfying build. Talking about the 24 gauge macro coil. I will be building this on the Brass Monkey RDA. It's got a block center post. A lot of your basic RDAs are just a 3-post. This one has a block centerpiece with 2 positive holes versus just 1 center. Same concept though. I don't want anybody to get confused on that this is going to be any different. You can use this build. That's why I really focus this, that it's the 24 gauge macro coil build tutorial. I'm bringing this build to you guys because it's nothing that's going to be overwhelming. So basic tools, basic build. This is starting from the bottom of the totem pole. When I started, this is what I started with, and then got a little more fancier, and I'll be introducing that to you guys. That's why I want to start my channel with basic everything, and we're going to build up the more I get into this. This is just so basic, the build in general, not even what it's on, but it's just a very basic build. This RDA, you're going to be looking for a sub-ohm device. I made this mistake when I started with RDAs. I was so excited to get an RDA. I originally had the MVP 2.0, and I got a Dark Ronin RDA 4-post, so it was a quad build. So excited to get it. I had been researching RDAs, and I got into it and was so excited. Put it on that, and of course, anybody who knows RDAs and knows Ohm's law, nowhere near enough power to fire that device. So I do want to say, if you're working with a starter pen, any low ohm, low voltage device, gotta have sub ohm. Something that's, for this one, you're gonna want, I'm gonna say at least 20 watts. If you don't have a device that's not producing at least 20 watts, you're really going to want to step it up a little bit. I'm going to build this, the Joytech EVIC Mini. I want to make sure I'm correct about that. Give credit where credit is due. Love this device. I'll go into a review at a later date on this. I don't want to get too carried away with the device. We're really more focused on this 24 gauge macro coil. So before this introduction gets any longer, let's dive down, and I'm going to show you the supplies that you're going to need for this build. Alright guys, this is going to be the supplies you need, and of course you're going to need your RDA. I'm using the Brass Monkey, whatever you prefer to use, whatever RDA you have. And you're going to need some kind of bits so you can measure the diameter of your coil. I purchased these at my local Walmart. It was probably about $1, including tax, $1.06, $1.10, something like that. Cheap, very cheap. Local Walmart, any hobby store, Home Depot has them. Very common, very easy to find. Or you can also use, I've heard many people use drill bits and such. Pliers. I like these bent tip ones. Almost give the effect of pliers, plus I got straight tip. Both I mean, you can get away with using one pair. You don't need both, but to each his own, subjective on which ones work the best for you. You're also going to need your wire. I'm using 24 gauge kanthal. I have some sitting here. You can also use 24 gauge nichrome 80. Some people prefer to use this. I like it better in some instances. Most common is your 24 gauge kanthal. You can go to almost any vape shop, and when you're looking for wire, kanthal is usually what they're going to have sitting there. So this is going to be your best bet. Of course, you're going to need your cutters. I got these at Michael's, a local craft store. You can use nail clippers or even wire cutters. I prefer these ones because it cuts them so flush, so close to the posts, because you don't want anything to short out. So that's why I really like using those. Organic Japanese cotton here. I got this at my local vape store. I want to say it was like $5 for 10 sheets. This is your most common, most cheapest, easiest to find. And also, I'm not going to use these, but you can get, I got these off of lightningvapes.com. It's a universal tool. You got a Phillips head in there, a flat head, and all of your diameters starting from, I want to say 2.5, 3, and 3.5. Yep, that's all of them. Some people get the Coil Master tools, and there's like 3 or 4 different ones. I kind of like this better. It's you get all your ends switched, and it's all in one thing. You don't have to have 4 of these or 3 of these. It's all just different ends. It works out the best. Now that we got our supplies, let's get this started. To get started, we're going to take our 24 gauge kanthal and get the end unlocked however you got it raveled. And usually for me, I can just go 1 turn of the spool, and that gives me enough for my 2 coils. And I usually I don't want my coil, you don't want your spool to unravel, because then it's a loose spool and your wire gets damaged. So you always want to make sure you keep your wire with tension on it whenever you're unrolling or rolling it, whatever you're doing. And like I said, you can usually go 1 unroll, and that gives you enough. Lock it back up and cut it just short enough so you can work with it next time. Alright, once we get our strip of kanthal, we're going to want to take our either drill bit, screwdriver, whatever you're using, and use a 3mm bit. To be God honest, I'm really not sure what that is in inches. I find it easiest just working with millimeters. And the way that I do my coils that I find the easiest is over the top, and I pinch it just before the bit. I don't start, some people, and it might even be easier, they start right at the edge of that bit and hold it there and start. But when I do that first wrap, my fingers are getting in the way. So I start a little further back from that edge, and I start going under. And this will be this is my first coil. There's 1, and we're going to do 5 wraps. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, and remember, keep them as close as possible. If you get some gap, it's not the end of the world. Don't freak out and think you need to start over or anything. It can be fixed. This stuff is very moldable. We're still at 3. There's 4. And they end facing you. Just remember that 4. And our last wrap, there's 5. And while it's facing. And the way I fix that first wrap is that edge that I put up there, straighten it back to aim towards you. And there's a little bit out of the back, just work with it. Just try to refix that first coil a little bit. Just tighten it up. And the best thing with these tools is you can take it and push down and get that nice and tight. And squish it down. And you want to trim off. You're going to use this extra piece for your next coil. The easiest way to do this is keep one lead longer than the other. You'll see when we install this in the RDA why that's the best way to go. So once that's trimmed, this is our first macro coil, 5 wraps. Keep that off to the side. We do our second one now. Do this a little faster since I just showed you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, straighten that one out, pull it as tight as possible. And this is why I said use one roll, because I barely wasted any wire now. Even when I trim this, what I'm trimming off is what got bent and messed up when it was on the spool anyway. So that would have been cut and thrown out regardless. And we're left with our second macro coil, our 24 gauge macro coil. Alright guys, now we've made our coils. This is the inside of the RDA, what I was telling you about. It has a center block instead of a center post. So you have 2 positives, these are your positives, and then your negative posts are on the outside. Okay? And the way we want to get started, you want to have your Phillips head screwdriver out. These are Phillips heads on this. So with that to the side, this is where you're going to see why I said keep one lead longer than the other. I usually like to take the lead that's going under to the center post and the lead going over to the negative post. So I'll be on the outer post here. And these coils are small enough, so in the post, I'm going to keep this to the far right. Split your center post up the middle, and these are going to go in the 2 holes to the far right. So we're going to put the center into the positive first. And that center is already in and sticking out, and this negative hasn't even touched yet. So this is why it's so much easier. And then you just feed that negative post in. Alright, and you can use your 3mm bit that you made this on. Put it in there. And once you get them in, I used to always try and get this. You don't want the coil to touch your posts. And I used to always try to get it as close as possible. But recently, again thanks to my my mentor of Rip Trippers, I keep a little bit of space. Because that way you have room to adjust. When you're done and you tighten these down, you can center it and pull it up and, you know, bend it to the left or the right. I think that's going to be perfect. So you can tighten down on your leads. A little screwdriver here. And you don't need to go, you know, muscle man mark on this. Snug them up though. You know, nice and snug works. Alright. Excuse me. And the next thing you're going to want to do, this is why I said I love these flush cuts, as close as you can. Nail clippers are almost the next best thing to this. As close as possible, and trim your leads. By the way, if you do this, these things will just go pinging and flying. So I usually hold a finger at the tips of each of them, so when I cut it, I can keep control of it. See, that just fell. Adjust this coil now. You know, I left that little bit of room, just like I said. So now you can use your screwdriver and center it. Center it a little bit. You know, you don't need to put it to the center of the RDA, but center it to that side between your 2 holes. You want to kind of put that coil right in between, right at the center of that gap between your positive and negative. Next, we're going to install our second coil. Sorry. Sometimes if you cut it and when you take it out, sometimes a little bit of your lead can get stuck in there. So before you install your coils, just make sure you can see light through it. Make sure that your screws aren't tightened down too much. Alright, and let's take our second coil. And same thing, the coil going over, we're going to put to the outside. The inner coil goes under. And this one, it was opposite to the last time, so the longer one, it may be different for you if you wrapped your coil a little different. And take that longer one and put it in first. Sometimes it'll be at a little bit of an angle when you put it in, so that's why you want to almost kind of feed it through while it's on your bit, so that while it's going in, you can adjust it just a little bit. You can give it that little twist. And like I said, I used to try to almost put it right to the post. Keep a little bit of room. Give it a little bit of a gap. And again, tighten down. Alright, and same thing as the first one. And once they're tightened down, you can put your bit in and bend it so it's centered. Go to your other side. Make sure you got the same thing. And the way I like to do it is look through it. See if you can see that. Look through it and try to see that both of them are the same on each side. See, so this one I need to pick up just a little bit. You know what, the same thing, the other side might need to go down. And one big thing you want to make sure is look straight down at it, and the edge, you want to make sure that your cap is going to fit on without hitting any of this coil. You don't want that, your top cap to rub, and that's one thing. Check it out, use your top cap and put it on. Make sure you're not rubbing anywhere. See, I can see when I'm putting this straight on, I'm not hitting the coil anywhere. Put it straight on flat, you can even spin it. I'm not rubbing anywhere. And again, like I said, you can look straight down on it and you'll see from your edge if you're going to have room. Alright guys, now that our coils are installed, we need to pulse the coils, which is basically just putting some power to them, making sure they're glowing from the inside out, making sure that they're glowing evenly, because you don't want to wick this thing up and then go to take a rip off of it and only have one side burning hotter than the other, because then you're not going to get an even vape. You're going to burn out half your cotton, faster. Just only half of it's going to work efficiently, and you're going to need to be dripping on one side and not the other. It's just, you need it evenly. So what we're going to do is, with our power on, make sure you're either on bypass or using a mechanical mod. I mean, you don't even have to use a mechanical mod. Just make sure you got enough power to it. You just want a little bit, and you'll see the smoke come off of it a little bit. And just kind of keep clicking, a little bit of power at a time. See, this one started, my other one's not quite there yet. And this is where your pliers come in handy, because I know once this is on here, just kind of tighten it up. Same thing on this side. So this is what I was saying too, if you wrap this coil and it wasn't completely tight off of your screwdriver, it's not the end of the world. Because when you pulse this thing right now, it's going to heat up, and then you crimp it together, and this stuff is super moldable. Let's try it again. A little bit. Looking much better now. And sometimes too, it helps out if you just kind of put your screwdriver in and give a little up and down, level it out. See, it still looks a little off. Level it out. Come over to the other side. See, that's looking pretty level. Let's pulse it again. That looks a little bit off now. Sometimes when this happens, what you need to do is check your connections. because when you start pulsing it, metal expands. So one of your screws could have backed out with something, you're not making quite as good of a connection as you are on your other side. So tighten them up. Let's pulse again. Alright, and we're going to keep pulsing. Starting to get a little more even. This is where this is going to come down to. Alright. Again, we're going to pulse. 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 There we go. Now we're getting even. My negative was a little bit loose, but I tightened it down, and they're looking real even now. Let's just give another little pinch now that they're both even. Tighten these guys up, make sure they're all both nice and tight. Nice and tight, nice and tight. Let's pulse it again. Pulse, pulse. Beautiful. That's what you want right there. Glowing from the inside and out, and they're glowing evenly. Now that our coils are pulsed, you want to let this just cool off a little bit, and then we can wick it. So I'm going to use this stuff just so I can make it more on the beginner level, because not a whole lot of people get them special fancy things. This is, I think I said it before even in my intro, I think it was like $5 for 10 sheets. It might even been cheaper than that. Take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to have to get into a new sheet, but you're going to want a pretty thick sheet for this one, or a pretty thick slice. I should have just started with a whole new sheet. You're going to want something about this wide. And some people only take off one level. I like to take off both of them. It's like it's shipped sandwiched in between two weird pieces. So I take off the top one, and then I even take off the bottom one. Not a whole lot of people take off both of them. I prefer it, because them sandwich pieces, you go ahead and get rid of those, and now you got all cotton. And I'll take it usually and give a little bit of a roll in between my hands. There we go. That way it kind of tightens it up. And then twist up your end. And this is just like feeding string through a needle kind of thing. And get that in there. And get to the end of your coil. And that end went in good, but you want a little bit of tension. You know, it's going through a little bit, and that's just about perfect. It's got a little bit of tension on each side. And I usually get that through about halfway. Alright, now we're going to be going to a brand new sheet of this cotton, so you'll be able to see a little bit better on what size you need and everything for cutting this. There we go. Alright. With your whole big sheet here, you're going to want a section about yay big. This is a 3mm coil, so you can use quite a bit of cotton in this. A lot of your normal coils are like 2mm, 2.5. This is a bigger one, being that it's your macro coil. So I'm going to save the rest of that sheet of cotton in there. Close this up. And just like I showed you with the first one, let's get these sandwich pieces off here. Spin this guy up. Once you got it rolled up, same thing as the other side, just get an end nice and nice and tight. You usually don't want that little hair hanging off of that end. So get that ripped off. That little extra, it always messes you up. There's always a fray on it, and you try to put it through, and you'll see if you try it. Give it a little twist while you're putting it through, and it feeds right through. There's enough sticking through. A lot of people will grab tweezers or your pliers so you can help feed that through. The same thing. Nice, and give a little back and forth. Make sure you got enough tension, and that's perfect. Just like the other side. Get it right in the middle. Alright, now that we got our cotton in there, you're going to want to trim off this extra. I used to always use all this cotton, and I found, you know, this is subjective in my opinion. You pack all this cotton in there, and you just don't really have any room for airflow, or extra air. It kind of like chokes it out, so when I first started vaping, somebody had said, you know, keep all that cotton. The more cotton in there, the more juice it holds. Maybe that's the way you feel about it, and you keep all the cotton in there. Me personally, I feel like it just kind of chokes it out. It's just a little too much cotton. So usually for trimming it, what I like to do is I like to go from negative post to negative post. Usually we'll fold it over to the other side and get it from one negative post to the other one. So that's about this much off right here. So that folds over. Yeah, that's right to the negative post. Same thing with the other side. You're gonna have to fold it a little bit differently because your coil is further down. But from negative, this one's only a little pinch off the end. Yeah, from negative to negative. And you can pretty much base this to your other side and just trim them evenly. They're all going to be the same length. Alright, now that we have our cotton trimmed, what some people will do is maybe take a scrap piece of kanthal, or maybe cut a little piece about yay big. Some people even will use the end of the scissors here and fold this in. And the easiest way that I found though is if you have your precision screwdrivers, I take the very smallest one. And again, you might not have those, so just to show you, some people will take their scissors and do this. And I'll just do this for an example. And they'll fold it. And you want to feed this in under here. See, to me personally, I don't like doing it this way. This is why I said go negative post to negative post, because now when you put this in here, it just goes from one end to the other, and it's perfect. And same thing with this side. And even with trimming this cotton, it's still jam-packed. So even if you feel the opinion of the more cotton, the more juice it holds, the less that you have to drip in it, this thing's still packed. I mean, if I hadn't trimmed this thing would be ridiculously packed up with cotton. As you can see, that's packed pretty good. You got a nice little lump in there. Another reason why I like using the screwdriver is another thing that I had seen and learned in my day, is you want to keep almost a little bit of air gap underneath the coil, because when we put the top cap on, you always want to put your airflow, your adjustable airflow holes as in front of the coil as possible. So right in this general area, you're gonna want your airflow, and you want to try and keep a gap underneath that coil so it can breathe. It can breathe and get through there. So I always like to pack the cotton and then just kind of go underneath and make a little bit of a gap. Now we can go to the other side and do the same thing. Like I said, with this screwdriver, it just makes it so much easier. It just packs it right in there. So quick and easy. Again, this is where I said when you put your coils in, the lead on top, I like to put on that outside and the lead going under to the inside, because this outer lead is on top. If it was underneath when I packed this cotton down, it would be hitting into that. So now that lead here is going up, when I go to pack this cotton under, it has room to go underneath that coil and into the juice well. Same thing with this side. Get it packed in there. Look at that, beautiful. Nice fluffy mound of cotton. Try and keep, it's not the end of the way. If you know, I got quite a bit of cotton in this, and I don't really have too much room for air. I'm trying to put as much of a gap as possible under here. It's not the end of the world if you don't have it. It's not gonna choke out your RDA. It's not gonna, you know, make it so you don't get any vape. It just helps it breathe a little better if you have it. So if you know, maybe you trim your cotton even a little shorter than I did, and that's how you like it. It gives you a little bit of extra room. Alright, now that we have our cotton nice and packed, you want to add some juice. And the juice that I'm going to use today is the churro from Milkman. Love this stuff. Very nice cinnamon nodes. It's not too much cinnamon though. It's a very smooth, exactly like its name is, tastes like a churro. Just great flavor. I love it. You know, I mean, you gotta try it. And once you get your juice, you want to basically paint it on. Go across it. A new cotton. This is going to take more juice than usual because it's a fresh cotton and you need to get it all absorbed up. Just kind of paint it on there. And once this cotton gets moist, the cotton's almost moldable at that point. So if you have any imperfections or anything sticking out, this is going to be so much easier to mold. This stuff's almost like an adhesive when you add the juice. Your cotton will mold easier and tuck easier and pack easier and stay packed because it'll stick almost. And get that puppy nice and saturated. Usually for a dripper, you would only have to probably take one dripper full, and you could get a good couple vapes off of that one dripper full. Since this is a fresh build onto a fresh cotton, we're probably going to need a couple of dripper fulls. Let's try one more here just to be safe. I probably won't need this whole dripper full. And like I said before, just paint this on. You don't want to go too crazy and glob it on there and just squeeze it on. You don't want to sit in one spot and just shoot it in there because, you know, you can end up with too much. When you sit and just paint it on lightly, it has time to absorb, and you know you're not putting too much, because you put too much, it starts leaking, it gets into your mod. Especially with these regulated devices, you know, you get juice in there and it can mess up your computer. You know, you don't want that. So go slow and carefully, and make sure it's nice and saturated. This is looking pretty good here. It should be good. Let's give it a test fire now. Oh yeah, see, that looks nice. Oh, and that churro smell, guys, it's just the greatest smell. Alright, now that we know we have a good build, it's vaping nice, just kind of top it off, and let's go back to the first screen and have us a vape. Alright guys, now that our building's done, like I said, we just give it a little top off. Make sure that we have enough juice on here for a nice fresh vape. You don't want a dry vape. I'm sure most of you guys have experienced it. If you're new to this, you don't want to experience it, but I mean 90% of everybody is gonna experience a dry hit in their lifetime vaping. Alright, now that we're nice and juiced, you want to take your cap, and just like I had said to you before, you want your adjustable airflow holes, you want it just over your coils. So I'm going to take that airflow, line it up with the coil, put it straight on there. Alright, let's have us a vape. And that churro flavor, guys, man. Vape Tech, big shout out. That's where I purchased it. Definitely gotta try it if you guys haven't yet. Great vape though. Let's have another one. That was our first one. Get this broken a little bit. It's a little heated. Let's try another one. That was a 5-second pull off of that. That's why I love the timer on this Joytech eVic VTC Mini. All your info. This is such a good device, and I have it on bypass mode, which it basically bypasses the chip. That's exactly why it's called bypass mode. It's at 65.1 watts, vaping at 3.87 volts, and this build came out to be 0.23 ohms. So that's a pretty comfortable build. It's not too crazy low. It's sub-ohm, but it's not dangerously low. So let's try a 3-second and see where that puts us. That's pretty good for a 3-second pull. Like I said, this is just such a easy, simple, basic build, and it produces. So it's not, you're not having to pull out your drill and make Clapton coils and, you know, twist wire together. It's just piece of wire, coil, go. Quick, easy, basic, and it produces. Let's do another. Let me try a 2-second one. That's awesome for a 2-second pull. Let's do it again. And I haven't even had the drip on this again. This is still going strong, doesn't taste dry at all. And that's what, four hits or so? Maybe 5, I kind of lost count. I believe it was 4. I know I got a puff counter, I didn't reset it though. Let's see how many I can get off of this before it even dries out. You know what, just to be sure, I mean, this doesn't even seem like it's dried out yet. I'm going to give a quick chain vape, but I want to start from a fresh, wet cotton just so we know exactly how many you can get off of this guy. Let's get this nice, and this is almost overflowing, so this will really give us an idea. Alright, here we go.
Do you think this is castle pump? Officially or non-officially? Non-officially. I will isolate it. Is this the resting place of last flesh? Now I'm starting to really feel like we are in a Dracula movie. This is the spot. Only when we make a deal. Feel like a meal. Introducing our new 4 for $4. $4 for a dinner bacon cheeseburger, nuggets, fries, and a drink. You're still sitting there? That's fresh, never frozen chicken, sizzling bacon, and so much more. Get 4 for $4 now at Wendy's.
Everyone knows a getaway car requires abundant power. And of course, the cover of darkness.
Whew. Getting a little fogged out in here. This is starting to get hot, and that's why I stopped. That was 10 pulls, and I'm not even close to drying out yet. That's still going strong. Plenty left. And just to check pull that. It's looking to start drying out a little bit. If you can see, it's starting to get a little white. I mean, I could probably get another 3 pulls off of it. That cinnamon flavor is starting to get to me a little bit. Oh, that was a lot of vapor. And I vape 6 milligrams, so that was a little intense for a chain vape. Most people that do a tutorial like this would chain vape at 0 milligrams, but I like to live life on the edge. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope it's very helpful to you. I hope this is an enjoyable vape. It's very, like I said, basic, easy. And I hope that this was a helpful video. All my YouTube viewers out there, vape on.